Everyone, this video is going to be on angle relationships, and we're going to be completing this foldable that you can find on our Canvas page. We're going to start off with complementary angles. So two complementary angles are two angles that their sum measure. The measure of their sum is 90 degrees. So another way that we can write that is m, or measure, of angle 1 plus measure of angle 2 is equal to 90 degrees. A really good way to remember this is that we can turn the first letter C in complementary to a 9, and we can make a little degree sign, and it's 90mentary, or complementary turns into 90. And here's a visual representation where we use that little box to represent that it is 90 degrees. So those two add up to be 90 degrees. So let's go ahead and go on to supplementary. So supplementary angles are pretty similar, but their sum is equal to 180. So if you remember from pre-algebra or 7th grade math that a straight angle is 180 degrees, so these two angles 3 and 4 add up to 180. A good way to remember this is if we add a 1, turn that s into an 8, and that u into a 0, we get 180. Alright, so let's go ahead and do an example. So example 1 is asking us to find the measure of angle ABC, which we can follow those three letters from A to B to C and know it's referencing the 11x minus 2 angle, and we can do the measure of CBD, which would be the angle right next to it or adjacent to it. So using our knowledge of supplementary, we know that a straight angle is 180, and that if this is 90, then this side is also going to be to 90. So those two angles are going to have to add up to be 90, so they are complementary. So we go ahead and start by combining our like terms, and we get that 16x minus 6 is equal to 90. We add 6 on both sides to get 16x equals 96, and then divide by 16 on both sides. And we get x equals 6. So now we have not answered the question yet because it's actually asking us to find the measure of each angle, so we have to plug in x to both 11x minus 2 and 5x minus 4. So if we plug it in for 11x, we get 64 degrees, and if we plug it into 5x, we get 26 degrees. And we can check our work by seeing if they add up to 90 because they're complementary, and 64 plus 26 does in fact equal 90. So we're going to go into do the supplementary example, which we know that adds up to 180, so we need to take those two angles and add them up and set them equal to 180. Now that we have our equation set up, we combine our like terms and get 14x plus 26 is equal to 180. We're going to subtract 26 on both sides and get 14x equals 154 and divide by 14 on both sides. And now x equals 11. But again, it asks us to find each angle, so we need to plug it in. We plug our 11 in for x, and we get 97 for angle ABC and 83 for angle CBD. So next we're going to do adjacent. I realized I kind of talked about this earlier, but adjacent angles are two angles that share a common vertex and side but have no common interior points. And we can think of that as right next to. Next is a linear pair, and they are two adjacent angles that have no common sides. Two adjacent angles are a linear pair if their non-common sides are opposite rays. And linear pairs are always supplementary. Last but not least, we have vertical angles, and two angles are vertical angles if their sides form two pairs of opposite rays. So we'll go ahead and draw a diagram. So in the picture we see we have two sets of opposite rays, and they're always congruent. They also make like this little V shape on both sides, right? So example 3 is asking us to use the diagram to determine if the angles are adjacent, vertical, a linear pair, or none of the above. So let's go ahead and start with angle 1 and 2. So if we look at angle 1 and 2, they're just right next to each other, and that word that we use to describe next to each other is adjacent. And if we look at 4 and 5, there's quite a few relationships going on. They're a linear pair, and they're adjacent. Next we have 7 and 9. And again, they look like 4 and 5, but a little bit turned over, so they're just linear pair and adjacent again. Next we have 6 and 9, which kind of make a V shape, so they are vertical angles. And if we look at 2 and 6, they're not next to each other. They really don't have any type of relationship. They're not even like in a corner from each other, kind of like 6 and 9 are, so there's no relationship. And that's the end of this video.